Wonders shall never end. Just when you think Nigerian politics couldn't get any more dramatic, the Senate has shocked the nation by suspending a senator who raised a sexual assault petition against the Senate president. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is not on the regular gist, like this is a very serious issue. In case you missed it, the senator representing Kogi Central, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, has been suspended. Well, let's wind back to how this whole thing started. The senator's troubles began after she had an altercation with the Senate president over seat arrangement, which escalated to a revelation that the Senate president was always on her case because she refused to give in to his sexual advances. Now, fast forward to today, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, Senator Neda, has laid out a detailed report that accused Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan of multiple infractions, including causing chaos and a rowdy session in the Senate. According to the committee, she refused her assigned seat and got into a shouting match that violated Senate rules.
When it comes to equity, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, must come with clean hands. It is important to note that the motion of Senator Adaramodu seeking investigation on the conduct of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan was referred to the Senate Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petitions when there was no case pending in court on the issue of seat allocation. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition, having due deliberation of the matter as revealed by Senator Adeyemi Raphael Adaramodu, Senator Titus Tatenja Zam, Chamber staff and the Sergeant at Arms, the committee recommends as follows. 1. That the Senate do suspend Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan for 6 months for her total violation of the Senate Standing Rules 2023 as amended for bringing the presiding officer and the entire Senate in general to public opprobrium. 2. That for the Senate to consider lifting the suspension or to reduce the tenure of suspension, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan shall submit a written apology to the Senate before the reconsideration by the Senate. 3. That the Senate do suspend Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan with effect from 6 March 2025 from all legislative activities forthwith. 4. That her office be locked up for the duration of her suspension and hand over all Senate properties in her possession to the clerk of the National Assembly. 5. That for the duration of her suspension, she cannot come or be seen within the vicinity of the National Assembly, including her staff. 6. That her salaries and allowances, including those of her legislative aides, be suspended and withdraw of all security details for the duration of her suspension. And 7. That for the period of her suspension, she be barred from representing herself to the public, locally and internationally, as a Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In conclusion, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my most distinguished and respected colleagues, on behalf of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petitions, we appreciate the Senate President and our distinguished colleagues for the opportunity granted us to serve Nigerians through the Committee of Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petitions, respectfully submitted for consideration and approval. Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues.
Well, despite the intensity of the proceedings, there were still voices calling for mercy. The minority leader, Abba Moro, pleaded for a lighter sentence, suggesting a 3-month suspension instead of the full 6.
For this opportunity that you have given to me to make a few remarks about what is on the table before all of us. Distinguished colleagues, I know how senators have been feeling about the subject of discussion today. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am sure that all of us are very well aware of the efforts that were made to avoid today. And so I want to say, on behalf of myself and my colleagues on this side of the aisle, that we feel very sad that this thing is coming from this side. I would have loved that it is coming from this side. Mr. President, I want to say without any fear of contradiction, that it is very, very unfortunate that it has come this way. Like I said, all efforts were made to avoid what is happening today. We are members of the minority on this side, but we are also senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And we have our rules. And as chronologically put together here, there is no doubt that there has been a breach of our rules. And breaches of rules and laws definitely come with consequences. These are the consequences that have been put very clearly here, that ordinarily would have been avoided. Mr. President, we are not against the report. Mr. President, I want to remind all of us that we are all Nigerians. And as Nigerians, we have the tradition encapsulated in the sage that if you beat your child with the right hand, you draw that child with the left hand. We therefore say that this Senate is aware that even in our homes, we have very recalcitrant children that will be approved by the Senate, or is most likely to be approved by the Senate. If it is convenient for the Senate and Mr. President, now that even the committee has given a window of possible mitigation of this sentence, we want to ask if it is convenient for the Senate and Mr. President that the 6 months punishment for suspension be reduced to 3 months. I say this with all with all sense of responsibility, but I think that with what has been canvassed here and the unanimity of senators on the gravity of these incidents, on the integrity of this institution, that 3 months is sufficient for some level of restitution, that 3 months will be enough for our sister and us here to reflect, to circumspect.
But the Senate President Akpabio, who is the accused, wasn't swayed and went on to sustain the 6-month suspension, with Akpoti-Uduaghan now required to surrender all National Assembly properties. She's also going to lose her security details and her office is also going to be sealed off.
Distinguished colleagues, let us go into the prayers. Prayer 1.
Dear Senate President, may I be given a chance to speak?
Prayer one. Yes. That the Senate do suspend Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan for 6 months for a total violation of the Senate Standing Rules 2023 as amended for bringing the presiding officer and the entire Nigerian Senate in general to public opprobrium. Those in support of prayer one say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. I'd put the question. Those in support of prayer one say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. How do you amend a prayer that is unanimous? Prayer two, that for the Senate to consider lifting this suspension or reducing the tenure of the suspension, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan shall submit a written apology to the Senate before any reconsideration by the Nigerian Senate. Those in support of prayer two say aye. Those against say nay. I don't think, Senator Baribe, as a landlord of the Senate, I don't think they heard what I read. So let me just repeat for clarity that for the Senate to consider lifting the suspension or reducing the tenure of the suspension, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan shall submit a written apology to the Senate before the reconsideration by the Senate. Those in support of prayer two say aye. Those against say nay. Huh? Okay, because I thought I heard 50-50. Let me make it 40-60. That for the Senate to consider lifting the suspension or reducing the tenure of suspension, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan shall submit a written apology to the Senate before any reconsideration of this case by the Senate. Those in support of prayer two say aye. Those against say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. Prayer three. Liberalism. Prayer three. That the Senate do suspend Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan with effect from 6th day of March 2025 from all legislative activities forward. Those in support of prayer three say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer four, that her office be locked up for the duration of this suspension, and she should hand over all Senate properties in her possession to the clerk of the National Assembly. Those in support of prayer four say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer five, that for the duration of her suspension, she cannot come or be seen within the vicinity of the National Assembly, including her staff. But this is normal. Those in support of prayer five say aye. Those against say nay. Again, the ayes have it. Prayer six, that our salaries and allowances, including those of our legislative aides, be suspended and withdrawal of all security details for the duration of our suspension. My children to contend with. Because even the senator we are discussing is the wife of my very close friend and brother. So I thought. On the day of our marriage, I slept in Kogi, in her house. The next day, I ran to Ubajana Airport. I missed my flight because the plane could not land since there had no light. So I ended up sleeping at Dangote Cement Factory with 9 people. So I spent 3 days. Please, give me a chance to say something. Even when Senator Nwebunyi attempted to say that he was present in the same car, the social media said he was lying. But you see, we have been taken to the floor. We have been dragged to the floor. I have a responsibility. If you look at the rules of the Senate, I don't only interpret the rule, but the rule, which is an extension of the Nigerian Constitution, gives me the power under Section 20, subsection I and H, no, H and I, that the Senate President shall be responsible for the observance of the rules of debate. He shall give rulings on points of order or of constitution raised during debate. Above all, he is the only person to interpret the rules, these rules that have been made. That's why I'm sitting here. I'm in the best position to interpret the rules of the Senate because I have the constitutional power enshrined in this.
This injustice will not be sustained. The pursuit for justice.
Guys, what do you think about this? What do you have to say concerning this incident? Please share your thoughts in the comments and do not forget to also subscribe to this channel.